You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to episode 188 of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Morgan Burkett, and our special guest, Marc Farzetta from the Farzy Show, right? I almost messed it up, man.
No, you know what's really funny is you nailed the full name, Farzetta, and then the nickname is what got you. So yeah, you got to be careful. No, yeah, Farzy Show. Thank you very much. Great to see you. Great to be on with you, Brian, man. Great to be on with all you guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we appreciate you coming on.
And am I the only one? Hold on, am I the only one drinking? What the hell's going on here? You sold me.
No, absolutely.
Okay, good. All right. Hey.
Cheers.
Jen Dom.
I mean, it's definitely a good time to take a nice sip. You know, we have Thanksgiving coming up. We have the big win last night that a lot of people are complaining about, that it's just a big loss on the Chiefs' part. But I feel like this is something we've seen from the Eagles. I think we could just jump right in it, right? Pretty sure everybody's feeling a little exhausted, a little happy about what happened last night. The Eagles defeated the Chiefs 21-17 in Arrowhead, and it was a gritty win. It was actually a 2023 Eagles-style win. How does everybody feel about the outcome of the game and what you saw on the field from either side of the ball?
I was proven wrong. I want to get that out of the way. I said the Chiefs would win. They did not. So, therefore, I have nothing to complain about. I'm wrong, and I'll eat all the crow all day. What I really enjoyed about the victory was the kind of adversity that the Eagles had to overcome as far as all the holding calls, for first and foremost. But secondly, that's another fourth quarter comeback and a game-winning drive by Jalen Hurts against the defending champs, the ones that beat us. So revenge does kind of taste sweet, even though I didn't call it.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta feel good about a win, but it definitely raised some questions. What I will say is I really liked how in the second half there was definitely a response. There was definitely an answer. There's a lot of things going wrong in the first half that they seemed to solve in the second half. Particularly the offensive line trouble. Again, you know, they still struggled a little bit in the second half, but it was much better. And then the defense as well kind of stepped it up. I know that there was a lot of opportunities there that the Chiefs kind of missed. That being said, the Eagles defense still was much better in the second half. So, I mean, you're never going to control all the little details. You know, the reffing on both sides was kind of all over the place. I didn't really know what was going to be a call, what was not. You know, the weather was what it was. You can never account for Mahomes' magic, but at the end of the day, like, they came out with a win, and in the second half, they made adjustments that allowed them to be in a position to win, when in the first half, it looked like it might be a blowout at some points.
Yeah, I look at this game, and you just went into Kansas City and you beat the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going to split hairs over how it looked. Like, here's the deal. You weren't supposed to be able to make mistakes like you made against the Kansas City Chiefs to get away with that and win the football game. All through 8-1 to that point in the season, going into Arrowhead Stadium, all the time with, you can't have these mistakes against teams like the Dolphins. Oh, and you beat the Dolphins. You can't have mistakes against teams like the Cowboys. Oh, and what do you know? You beat the Cowboys. You certainly can't have mistakes like that. You expect to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs out-mistaked the Philadelphia Eagles in this game, and it was glorious. It's fine. Look, the fact that they went into Arrowhead and they won this game in the fashion in which they did, they faced the adversity that all you guys have talked about, is beautiful. And to hear Jalen Hurts after the game come back in yet another double-digit deficit and win a football game, to hear him talk about the secrets of that success is calmness. That's my quarterback. All of Philadelphia should be very happy that Jalen Hurts is their quarterback, and that's his mentality. And not enough quarterbacks have that type of mentality that Jalen Hurts has right now and has had really for the vast majority of his career, which is having that calmness when adversity and difficulties are right in his face. You're talking about a guy who's only lost 2 games since being named the full-time starter. That's absolutely incredible in the Sirianni Hurts era. That is fantastic. And to see them make big plays defensively, like Kevin Byard making the interception in the end zone. That wasn't luck. That's called making a play. You see Bradley Roby punching that ball out against Travis Kelce. That ain't luck. That's called making a play. So for me, I look at this game, and this is a big feather in the cap of the Eagles, because certainly the Chiefs had opportunities to win this game. And guess what? The Eagles had opportunities to make this a win more so in their favor. But you know what the difference is? Philadelphia Eagles capitalized on their limited opportunities, and the Chiefs choked them away. Last time I looked, that's called a choke job, and the Eagles took advantage of their opportunities, which means they were the better football team that day, just like, unfortunately, the Chiefs were the better football team in the Super Bowl, the game that obviously mattered just a little bit more. But for me, the fact that the Eagles improved to 9-1, are looking to shore up and lock up the number one seed in the NFC, is only the beginning to hopefully what will be a nice long playoff run as well.
Yeah, and I definitely completely agree with that. I mean, you mentioned two of the key plays in the game, right? On defense, you saw Kevin Byard get an interception, which we haven't seen much out of outside of Reed Blankenship. You saw Bradley Roby punch a fumble away against Travis Kelce, who looked a little bit out of character last night, but still, nonetheless, like you had to show up to your job. I mean, if I don't show up to my job every day with the right attitude, I'm out of there, right?
Well, we know why, right? We know why he looked out of sorts.
I don't want to talk about it.
I mean, someone else did not show up to her job.
Yep. It's
the reason why.
I think what you say is he just couldn't shake it off. And that's unfortunate, you know? You got to be able to be like Jalen Hurts and continuously shake it off. Sorry, I hate that I even know those lyrics. I hate that I even knew the tour dates of Taylor Swift. I don't know anything about Taylor Swift other than that she's from like Reading or something. And like other than that, I am ashamed. I'm just ashamed that I knew why she wasn't at the game. I'm ashamed that I read articles about it. And look, bottom line is Travis Kelce plays a hell of a lot better when she's in the stands. She wasn't there last night, and he sucked again. That's a shame.
Yeah, that is definitely a shame. And hey, at the end of the day, you know, everybody showed up and did what they had to do, defensively, offensively. Looking a little bit at the offense, I feel like we kind of, you know, be a little nitpicky in this regard. I feel like this offense is just is consistently inconsistent at this rate. And it weirdly works for them. I mean, at times where you see these weird bubble screens on the left and the right side right after each other, and these weird draws on third down, it ends up leading to sustainable drives in the end, right? Is anybody kind of like surprised that we're still seeing Brian Johnson kind of just driving his car on first gear as opposed to really exploring the features of this you know, Ford F-150, if you want to look at it like that, right? You know. Are we so surprised that he still feels kind of limited to what he's doing?
As frustrating as all that was, it like, you know, the idea of running screenplays sometimes twice, 3 times in a row. I don't feel that the Eagles showed if they had anything kind of up their sleeve on offense because I think they're ready to play the Chiefs again. So think about this. Brian Johnson, if he is going to coordinate his best offensive game plan against the Chiefs, he certainly hasn't shown it, and the Philadelphia Eagles already won. So I'm thinking right now that, like, I'm not trying to give him too much credit because what I think he did in yesterday's game, as far as most of the play calling, was absolutely garbage. I do think that Hurts actually did call. I think Sirianni said in the press conference he called the audible to throw it to Smith at the 1-yard line. Well, that practically wins you the game because brotherly shove's almost automatic. So, when I kind of see the player making a better play calls than the coach, I mean, audibly at the line, it kind of, you know, takes away a little bit from the coach. But I will say this: if Brian Johnson has something up his sleeve, I'm just happy to see that the Philadelphia Eagles were able to beat the defending world champs without even close to being creative.
Yeah, I'll say this. So there's a lot that Brian Johnson has left to be desired this season. I use this word going into this game, and it's a word we use a lot for young athletes that have a lot of promise, and that's the word flashes. We see flashes of this guy showing that he's a first-round talent. We see flashes of a guy that's going to be, you know, that whole thing. They've been few and far between, but maybe at least won a game. where you see flashes of that was a good play call. And yes, it was a check down play with Jalen Hurts with the 41-yard pass to Devontae Smith for the 1-yard line and set up the tush push and all that stuff. But even before that, the jet sweep with DeAndre Swift, I was like, okay, all right, let's make that happen. And I was in the green room with Seth Joyner, and we were both losing, all of us, Mike Missinelli, Bill Calarulo, Kayla Santiago, we were all losing our damn minds over the back-to-back bubble screens when you're backed up on your own 10-yard line, I believe it was. And the first one almost is a fumble and a return for a touchdown, and all of a sudden, totally different game for the Chiefs. And then you're watching it and going, and you go, oh, wow, that sucked. Let's not do that again. Oh, my God, they just did it again. Literally, back to back. And it was horrible. And I'm like, okay, so maybe Brian Johnson shouldn't call plays anymore. Good God. And then as the game went on, you saw more of Steve Spagnuolo starting to crowd the middle of the line, and that's where he was having a lot of success in the first half. And the Eagles, to try to combat that and spread the field a little bit more, started running those bubble screens. I was like, okay, all right, wait a minute. Maybe there's a method to the madness here. And the next thing you know, the Eagles get the big play downfield to Devontae Smith. They get another big run by DeAndre Swift. Maybe there was a little bit of a method to the madness. Now, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden, wow, A+ job, Brian Johnson, you're fantastic. No, that means, okay, with the flashes, maybe they're going to start to be a little bit more frequent, and maybe this guy after the bye week, just like maybe Kevin Byard needed to get acclimated to his new surroundings coming out of the bye week and looking fantastic against Travis Kelce and looking fantastic in making that interception in the end zone. Maybe that's what he needed to get acclimated with his new surroundings. After all, the guy is a 2-time All-Pro. Maybe it's the same thing here with Brian Johnson. Maybe it's the same thing with Brian Johnson where, all right, you know what? I had my first 8 games, my first 9 games with me calling plays as the offense coordinator of Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the second half of the season, I've ironed out some wrinkles. I have a better understanding of what's going on and the timing and rhythm of it all, and also how to take the game plan installed by Nick Sirianni and making sure that we exploit the weaknesses pointed out in that game plan throughout the game while I'm calling plays. So maybe this is the turnaround for Brian Johnson. But, yeah, in this game, I was like, take his play chart away, get him off headset, send him upstairs, and have him make coffee or something because this ain't going right. And sure enough, let's not forget that he also has, a top 5 offense in the NFL in terms of scoring. And it certainly looks like at times, yes, his quarterback does bail him out with some pretty big plays. But, man, if this is the learning curve with him, we might be on the other side of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. You both make points kind of to the not only the play calling but the play design, and there's some really beautiful and intricate things that Brian Johnson does with his play design. You're talking about that the screen game, like that running back screen to DeAndre Swift that they got going. It's a beautiful play. They used it pretty timely as well. That last one they kind of got lucky, could have also been a huge gain, right? And so there's some really intricate and really promising play design happening. The play calling, I think it just takes some time, right? Like you've had a guy who's been a quarterback coach for a while and just hasn't had a play calling job, right, in the NFL. So it's going to take time for him to develop that skill. But the play design, there's been, like Eric kind of mentioned it, there's been opportunities there. There was that one outside zone that they kept running with the delayed wham from the tight end where he's kind of waiting for that snap to come, right? And that's just like perfect play design for a little slip out the backside, which I would call it a slipper. But they fake that, they go out the other side, all of a sudden you're out the gate, boom, you're hitting it, and you're on the run, right? And so there's really he is seeming to set stuff up, but then it's just the play calling for me, like, to his credit, I assume that the time that the opponent is expecting a screen the least is when you just ran one so poorly. Like maybe that's what he's thinking. But yeah, there's been a couple of times just with the play calling in certain situations that I think is just going to take some time. And we've been fortunate enough, like Sirianni came in, was calling plays last year. Even with the Colts, he had an opportunity to call some plays, right? He had some experience doing that. Brian Johnson has had none. So I think it's just a learning curve, and we're starting to see again, like he is getting better. But I think unfortunately he kind of has to learn through failure. Okay, that doesn't work. I can't do that again.
On that note, just real quick, you mentioned that it's a great point, a great thing to bring up the screen to DeAndre Swift. I hope that opens the floodgates. Like, oh yeah, that's right. We're supposed to run these running backs anyway. Look how well it worked. And look 100%. How well DeAndre Swift has run that in his career. So I'm hoping that is I'm hoping that's Pandora's box when it comes to screens to the running backs.
And a little bit of an added note real quick. I believe it was Kelsey that actually at the line we started making some adjustments in the second half. None of that happens. Any of that magic, any of those play calls, none of it is executed unless Hurts has a little bit of time to get the ball out. So, and he didn't have that in the first half, and it was pretty evident.
I think the other thing that kind of became evident too, just with that one almost interception that Jalen Hurts threw, and you see AJ Brown just seeing that he's got open coverage. We don't really know from the outside looking in how much flexibility to freestyle this offense has, and that's just one of the things you kind of lose is that consistency, right? When you allow players to kind of freestyle, you trust that they're going to make the right plays. Sometimes you just have people on the wrong page. Now that doesn't account for the screens, but there's definitely some plays there where we like that just looks bad on the film, but we don't know that, Devontae Smith was getting this release and then he adjusted his route and now he's not in the position that Jalen Hurts thought he was going to be. So again, that just takes time. So I think we're going to start them seeing them hit their stride, I think.
To play a little bit of a devil's advocate, I mean, it was great to see those kind of plays, right? You saw the screens to DeAndre Swift. I mean, I feel like finally using him in the open field was genius. Like, what took so long at this point? But outside of that, like we didn't see much going on like in the middle of the field with the wide receivers. I mean, Devontae Smith did own the game, but AJ Brown was kind of non-existent. We know there's nothing to get with the tight ends, and I mean, should the Eagles still be kind of concerned that we're still not distributing the ball as well as they want to, right? As productive as they want to be, pretty much at this point in the season.
I'm wildly concerned about not having Dallas Goedert. I don't think Dallas Goedert is the MVP of the Eagles by any means, but damn, he is important. And I know we were banging our heads against the wall when it came to getting the run offense going in this particular game, especially in a rainy day. Let's take the obvious out of it. As a pass catching tight end, he's pretty damn good. As a run blocking tight end, he is damn near the best in the NFL. Right. So that is a huge miss and a huge concern going forward because teams like the San Francisco 49ers and yes, teams like the Bills whose offense just loves turning the football over. So that gives me confidence to at least win that game. But man, not having Dallas Goedert for some of these games coming up is huge. And also Dallas Goedert not going on IR is also huge in the positive direction for the Eagles. So when it comes to this offense not looking stagnant at times for long periods throughout games, that's not going to get any easier as long as Dallas Goedert is not on the field helping this offense move the ball down the field, whether that be in the run game or whether that be catching passes from Jalen Hurts. So that's a big concern as far as that offense finding some kind of rhythm and fluidity as the season goes on.
And him not going on IR is huge for specifically the Philadelphia versus San Francisco. Just give him another, I would give him another week just to kind of heal. Don't even play him. Don't even consider it against Buffalo because I want to see with the packages that are installed since they were new, with him being out of the lineup, I do want to see how the response is. Does it get better with the depth of the tight ends against Buffalo? So Stoll is somebody that's, yeah, I mean, he is what he is, and he's going to be that at the end of the day. I don't think there's going to be much of an improvement, marginal at best, and because he's not going to be a focal point after really 2 weeks. But at the same time, if he can show up and give another little detail to the running game and say, hey, you know what? In fact, he's not that bad of a run blocking tight end. Or if he can get out there and make some get open on some mid routes and make those catches, he could be a guy that is a pretty valuable piece that just kind of slips into the cracks in the playoff run.
I don't know. I mean, and this is one of my pet peeves with the Doug Peterson and Jim Short days, right? Like they had players back there, like they were on the bench, and you were like wondering, like, hey, why are we not seeing this guy? I feel like we're kind of seeing that at this point with Albert O. Like they traded for him in the offseason. He has experience within the NFL. He's played games. He's not a rookie. Is anybody else like surprised that we're not seeing Albert O at all on the field? Within the passing offense at this point.
I'm a little surprised. You've seen him put up some good numbers, not great numbers, but good numbers when it comes to his time with the Denver Broncos. But they had trouble getting Dallas Goedert incorporated in the passing game as good as he is in the early goings of the season. So at this point, when your next best option is Jack Stoll or your next best option maybe is Grant Calcaterra, you mean to tell me Big Al can't get any plays his way? I saw him in on the tush push, so that was cool. But other than that, you're really not seeing him. And also, Rashad Penny must really suck at football. He must be terrible. Like, for instance, Trey Sermon. I'm listening to the Eagles, and I'm listening to Nick Sirianni throughout the offseason, throughout the preseason, be like, oh, Trey Sermon, yeah. Trey Sermon, he's amazing. And then cut. And they get Rashad Penny's still here. He gets healthy, and it's like, oh no, he's not seeing the field. You remember that time he ran the ball and he actually had like a good run, and then you saw him one more time, and then you didn't see him ever again. You've only activated him for like 3 games this season. What's the deal with that? He must suck. And I'll say this: the first time he was activated and he got his first run or 2 in a game, I'll admit it, he looked slow as molasses getting to the offense or getting to the line of scrimmage. And I went, ooh. This guy does not have anything left in the tank. And then against the Cowboys, I believe it was, he had a fairly nice run of like 8 yards. And I remember going, all right. Or no, 6 yards. And I went, okay, there we go. Got to the line of scrimmage, hit the hole. All right. And then it's just like, nope. He is a distant 4th behind Boston Scott. So there are a couple of guys that I feel like they have on this offense that won't be game breakers. They're not looking to start up a Hall of Fame career run here in Philadelphia. But they could help you win a little bit, especially with the idea that the running backs haven't been as productive anyway, especially guys not named DeAndre Swift. And without Dallas Goedert, who is the tight end that is going to even be close to an option for Jalen Hurts? So it's just something that is not going to, I feel like, change the overall outcome of the season, but it's just a couple of things that make you go, those guys seem like they could help just a little bit more than maybe this other guy. That's it.
And that's my thing. I feel like offensively, they're being extremely stubborn, right? Like Kenny Gainwell has had a mess of a season. He's not who we saw last season, right? He's had great moments, but he's also had very low moments. And to kind of just keep that on the field where it's like, yeah, like Kenny's still, number 2 no matter what, but Rashad Penny can't get on the field to actually wear down defenses. It's mind-blowing, right? And then Albert the guy has stats. Like he was out playing with the Denver Broncos. How he traded for him for probably this reason, where if Dallas Goedert went down, you had that backup tight end, and you can't count on Grant Calcaterra with a concussion history. Jack Stoll is who he is. I mean, I feel like if we're experimenting with the offense, which obviously it seems like that, where you're playing with failure and you're playing with success, you might as well experiment with all the pieces you have. You don't play chess with just 5 pieces. You got to make sure you have every single piece on the chessboard doing what they do best.
See, and that's where I think that I might disagree. Like if you're winning with pawns, you don't throw the bishop out there, and I understand. I think necessity, right? Like necessity will dictate Alberto's playing time, and I see him getting more playing time against the Bills. Like you went into the Chiefs game with that experiment. You wanted to see how Calcaterra and Stoll would do. I mean, you got your answer, right? Like that's how they're gonna do. Stoll, again, I don't think you take playing time away from him. He does what he does, and he does it well, right? But when you're looking for that kind of X factor, which clearly the Eagles, I don't know, need is the right word, but it makes them a lot better team when they have someone in that position that can make plays. I see them using Alberto more against the Bills. In terms of the running back situation, like I just feel like you kind of have that rotation, and I don't know, like when you're winning, it's tough to look at the other guy and go, hey, let's switch it up. And I get it. Like it might be kind of a what have you done for me lately kind of thing with coaches. But I mean, you're 9-1 and the rotation's been working for you. I think Rashad Penny, like, you have him in the back pocket, right? And he's ready to go when the time comes. But like you ran pretty well against the Chiefs. I don't think it was an issue, right? And so, like, unless you're really, really struggling, all right, let's feed it to a different guy. It's unfortunate. I think he's a great player, but the rotation's kind of working for them.
The kind of the running back conversation that we're having kind of sounds like with the Flyers and all the conversations with Morgan Frost. It's like, oh, why isn't he in the lineup? Why isn't he being used? And at the end of the day, it's like the Flyers are on a 5-game winning streak, so who cares? Really, at the end of the day, like it is about, everybody says, it's not about how you win. It's just that you win. I'm like, okay, so let's go about it that way. Like I see the running back room as an embarrassment of riches until Swift is somebody that's not going to be the guy getting the cowbell share of the, or looks like of the of the touches, then I'm not going to fret, because I do think that the Eagles could be, very well balanced with the three-headed monster if Swift wasn't in the equation. So I think, yeah, you're in good hands. It's like it's like that car insurance company, Allstate or whatever. You're in good hands.
All of them.
Does the Kenny Gainwell like story arc remind you guys of Corey Clement at all? Like, I just every single time I kind of see him, I'm just like, oh, it's Corey Clement again.
Nah, but I feel like Corey was a lot more consistent. Like Gainwell's been weird. I feel like Gainwell's running like he's Corey Clement, but he's not. Gainwell's more so like a speed back, right? But he's running like he's 85 pounds heavier than he actually is, and that drives me kind of nuts a bit.
The thing I'll say about Clement is he had two guys in front of him that were pretty damn good. I mean, LeGarrette Blount that year, as well as trading for Jay Ajayi. Like, you could see why a rookie wouldn't get on the field with those two guys in front of him, right? Mm-hmm. With Kenny Gainwell, man, the red carpet was rolled out for you when they chose not to bring back Miles Sanders and pay him anything significant, and instead got four running backs for what is being paid to Miles Sanders this year in Carolina. So that's insane. But Kenny Gainwell had a red carpet, especially rolled out there for the red zone with this team. And he did not capitalize on that opportunity. Last year in the playoffs, with that comparison you made, yeah, absolutely. You thought, oh, wow, Corey Clement had this great Super Bowl, rookie record receiving yards in the Super Bowl. This is insane. Eagles are going to have him for the foreseeable future. And then injuries. You never saw him. You're looking at a guy right now with Kenny Gainwell that, injuries aside, he's just not producing. And DeAndre Swift, when he gets opportunities, is producing. And even if you don't want to run the football, you just want to throw the football to a running back, who would you rather throw to? Kenny Gainwell or DeAndre Swift? It's not even a question. It's DeAndre Swift. Yeah. So for me, it's similar in that you saw some great production and promising production in the postseason. But this year, he doesn't have a good battery of running backs in front of him. They had to trade for DeAndre Swift in order to give him competition, which DeAndre Swift has clearly won. Mm-hmm. So, yes, in terms of last year's production, absolutely. But in terms of just capitalizing on opportunities this year, no.
I don't disagree with that. And Mark, so I know we have you for a couple more minutes, and this next question is going to bother me, but I'm going to ask you just because Duck has been a loyal fan for Flipping the Birds for years, right? I'm a Mets fan, so I really don't care anything about the Phillies. So I do apologize in advance.
I'm a Phillies fan. I'm a Phillies fan. I don't raised,
okay? Born and raised. My grandmother in her household is everything Mets, right? As he drinks his whiskey. But Duck wants you to comment on the Nola contract.
Let me preface this. Hi, Doug. How are you? Let me preface this by saying I don't think any contract in sports should be more than 5 years. Like, yeah, I know no players association would ever go for that, but no contract. I mean, the NBA kind of does, but I hate anything more than 5 years, especially if we're talking about a pitcher on the wrong side of 30 signing a 7-year deal. That's the only thing I don't like. But if you know the game, if you know the sport, if you know the business side of it, you know that's just the way it is. Getting Aaron Nola at less than $25 million a year is getting Aaron Nola at an obscene discount, because that's not ace money. That might be a great contract right now, but they're setting the market. That number is going to get outbid. He's getting less money than Carlos Rodon, who's got a 6-year, $27 million per year type of deal with the New York Yankees. He's a better pitcher. Aaron Nola's a better pitcher than Carlos Rodon. For somehow, some way, some magic way, the Phillies are getting a discount on Aaron Nola. So now that you're not paying him top-tier ace money, at least not in the foreseeable future, not in the near future, you can now start to highlight the idea that he's a guy that will be a great innings eater for you. I don't like last year going into the season talking about, oh, he's an innings eater. Oh, he allowed 4 runs, but man, he pitched 6 innings. First off, if you're a 1 or a 2 in a good rotation, eating innings is not a brag, okay? But now that he signed this deal to be here for a long time and he's been durable in his career, you can start talking about that innings being even more significant, because that's not number 1 starter money. Zach Wheeler is going to command more money from him after next year's regular season when he goes into his new contract or starts negotiating his new contract. So the Aaron Nola deal isn't terrible at all. I think it's a great move by Dave Dombrowski. I think, knowing the grand scheme of things in baseball, it's a great contract for a pitcher, especially a guy like Aaron Nola, who every night's going to give you 6 innings. I don't think this is going to be the norm with him allowing 39 bombs in a single season. I think this is going to be more of the exception than the rule. But as far as getting innings, as far as giving you quality starts, This will be a great opportunity. He will do that for you in the near future. But the best part about it is you don't have to rely on him to be the 1A anymore. He is definitely the number 2. And I'll take Aaron Nola as a number 2 in this rotation with Ranger Suarez getting better, Christopher Sanchez giving you quality starts as well. And then later, guys like Mick Abel figuring it out and Griff McGarry figuring out the minor league level. And then a year from now, talking about Andrew Painter as a guy that's going to be a regular contributor in this rotation as well. So I like the Nola deal. I'm for the Nola deal. Less than $25 million per is a damn steal for the Phillies. Good job by Dave Dombrowski. Oh, and here's something else I learned by him signing that deal and not taking more money elsewhere, because he could have gotten $30 million a year on the open market. That means that Aaron Nola loves Philadelphia. That's what that means. So I'm all for it.
I was just about to ask you that too. How much of that you think factored into him taking a discount? But you nailed it right there. Yep.
Well, I don't believe in it's a weird thing. So you could call it a hometown discount. You could also just call it the idea that the Phillies are going to be contenders. Phillies are going to be in the hunt for the foreseeable future. They're not going to be favorites to win, but a lot of times the best thing you can ask of any athlete can ask of a franchise is just make me pitch meaningful games. Okay, Aaron Nola has been here for the dreck. He's been here for the slop. He's been here for the Rollins, Utley, Howard transition to the Tommy Joseph, Reese Hoskins transitions. You know what I'm saying? He wants to know that he's going to have a significant impact on baseball when it matters most, and he has that here in Philadelphia. You can't guarantee that everywhere else.
I literally haven't thought of the name Tommy Joseph until you said it. So that's
you're welcome. A picture of him came up recently. I did an event with him years ago, and it came up in my feed, and I was like, "Who the hell is? Oh my God, Tommy Joseph!" Jeez, my goodness gracious, Pete McCann singing his praises.
And that's definitely not uncommon in Philadelphia. I mean, these athletes they buy into the culture, they buy into the city. One thing I would comment about the Phillies, and I've said this multiple times to Eric and Zach, I love Phillies playoff baseball because the energy in Philadelphia is second to none, right? Griff McGarry, an absolute dog. Absolute dog. I love him. Coming out of Virginia, he played with my brother-in-law, and our whole family actually rooted for him. Phenomenal kid. He's definitely going to be a good pitcher for the Phillies in the long term.
Hey, did you ever see Pete Alonso cry?
Hey, whoa.
I was just going to say something along those lines, but I'm happy you did it before me.
Yeah, have you seen him cry? I've seen him cry. Have you seen him cry?
I don't want to answer that question.
Yeah, he feels like there's a second coming.
All right, hold on. I don't hunt. Do you guys hunt? Are you guys hunters?
No.
Okay, I don't hunt either.
More you hunt?
It's I mean, it's a Canadian thing, East Coast,
yeah, they go to the forest, or as they call it, the grocery store. And there's a great show. I don't hunt, but again, I do eat meat. There's a show called Meat Eater, and Pete Alonso is on the show. And spoiler alert, he gets himself a mule deer. He shoots a mule deer, and then he cries because he's like, "Hey, look, I'm all about family. I love my family. I'm a very emotional man." But he's crying that he shot a mule deer because his grandfather would be really proud of him. And I was like, "This is a great show. This is a great moment." But as a Phillies fan, I'm like, "You little cry baby, you little cry, why don't you cry, you little Mets boy, little Mets boy." Swear, but it was cool. Like 90% of me, this is so cool. 10% of me is like, yeah, you keep them tears coming, Mets boy. You know what I mean? But anyway, enjoy Meat Eater. Steve Burnell, great show.
Got to check that out. Definitely have to check that out as a Mets boy. But Farzy, man, we appreciate you, man. We definitely appreciate the energy you brought to the show today. Hopefully we have you on in the future when the Eagles make their run in the playoffs. I would say to plug your stuff, but you are infamously known within Philadelphia. I feel like you can't walk in Philadelphia while people shaking your hand. So
it's just so God, how loved I am is ridiculous. Farzy Show 6 to 7 a.m. On the old Farzy Show YouTube channel, as well as the Jacob Media Sports channel, and I do the Eagles coverage for Jacob Media as well, and the Phillies coverage in post-game responsibilities there. So, guys, this was so much fun. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm honored, man. Appreciate you having me on. And you guys, great to meet you, and happy hunting in Canada.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Mark.
Take it easy. Have a good one.
Hey, salute. See ya.
All right, awesome. So that was Marc Farzetta joining us to talk a little bit of recap of Eagles and Chiefs. But it's time for us to recognize something.
Well, we got
Eric has had a long-standing gimmick this season within the show, where if he chooses against the Eagles win. Yeah. Ironically, the first time that Eric, not the first time, right? Second time that Eric has chosen against the Eagles, the Eagles won. You can't deny this. Like, this is not a myth. This is not a curse. It's a blessing. It's the Reese's Pieces, bro. Like, it's the Reese thing.
And I bet I'm pretty sure I remember him choosing the Eagles against the Jets. Just saying. So, there's no way
that makes sense.
Eric, there's no way you said the Jets were going to win. There's no way.
At the beginning, before the season, I did have the Jets, but that's also when Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback. So you're right. When we did the podcast, going into that week, yeah, I did pick the Eagles. So, it's whatever. I guess Zach Wilson's my kryptonite. What do I say here?
Well, we know who you're
embrace it.
picking. We know who you're picking today, right? We know who you're picking today, right?
Buffalo, baby. Dropping bodies through tables, baby.
You know what, dude? I will say this. I'm going to compliment them, that fan base, because I would really like if
they deserve a salute,
dude. Yeah, they are ruthless, and they are Philadelphia, but like more north. That's all it is. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. I don't care what Philadelphia fans say. It is it's awesome. Like, no, I'm throwing out. Oh my God,
Doug, what are you doing?
You know what? Because I said Zach Wilson was my kryptonite, and I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with that.
Kryptonite and hero, apparently, right?
Role model for a lot of people.
Yeah. How did we get here?
It's okay. We got here. We can get back. We can get back.
Like both fan bases. Yeah. That's all I wanted to say.
I want to spend the next like 3 to 4 minutes before we hit the 40 mark to talk about the defense of the Eagles. I feel like we really covered that against the Chiefs, right?
Right.
I'm very happy with what we saw in the secondary, right? Kevin Byard did his thing. Kevin Byard only allowed 46 yards to Travis Kelce, and he had several pass block ups. He allowed the touchdown, yes, but he also had the interception. And I feel like this is what was needed in this defense, right? Like we've seen it for so long that Bradbury was getting beat, Slade was getting beat, Eli Ricks was getting beat, Josh Jobe was getting beat, and now you have the safeties back there, two guys who are actually holding down the fort. How did you feel about the secondary first and foremost, right? And then the defensive line, I mean, the Hassan Reddick sack was freaking. I feel like everybody in Philadelphia just got off the couch and just jumped, and the whole world just shook. Like it was a long time coming and very much needed. Yeah. Shout out to Sean Bradley, who tweeted, "Hey, I guess the field isn't over soaked this time around." Yeah. But how did you guys feel about the defense showing up and actually holding down the best, whiniest quarterback in the NFL?
Desai has done it again this season, where it's supposed to be a high octane offense. And
are you saying that it has been decided?
Yes, it has been decided. Okay. It's another high octane offense that he held to under 20 points, and it looks like his scheming and the way that he might be designing his defenses is against certain teams. He is very good at taking away. Yeah, we get it, Duck. I'm lost my train of thought. Thanks, Brian. No. So anyway. Pretty much what I was going to say is Desai is very good at targeting specific areas against certain teams. So it's Tua and Tyreek, it's Mahomes and it's Kelce. This week it's going to be Allen and probably Diggs, and I imagine it's probably going to be exactly what they're trying to take away. And the thing is, I feel comfortable with that because of how the track record's been so far. Had this been a team that is kind of flying underneath the radar, I think he plays a little bit more of a relaxed and read and react game because he doesn't have the certain player to focus on. Like, yeah, Washington, you do have McLaurin to focus on, but it's not as threatening with Howell back there, even though they did what they did, versus the idea of Mahomes coming in with Kelce or with Tua coming in with Hill. So I think kind of paying attention to that as the seasons went on, I think Desai is, actually, God, surprised me against
he's the real deal.
Teams. Yes, he's surprised me against very great teams.
Yeah.
They allowed 0 points in the second half, by the way. 0 points in the second half.
Yeah. I mean, like credit to Kansas City. Well, mostly Patrick Mahomes. Like I think they unfortunately just left some plays out there. I mean, fortunate for the Eagles, but I don't know how to feel. I think the one thing Bayer did a fantastic job covering Travis Kelce, and the one thing that did is it took him out of the middle of the field, and so you saw Kansas City kind of go to the middle of the field with that long bomb to MVS that he should have had. Obviously, Bradley Roby just doesn't have that long speed, and I think that's kind of the worry is I don't think any of these corners have long speed. Like the Eagles are not a fast secondary, and that's an issue. That being said, I think that again, schematically, because you're playing the Chiefs, that's the sacrifice you make. We're going to take Travis Kelce out the game. And if, MVS or Kadarius Toney or whoever they have outside of that, Watson, like whatever, if they beat us, then we're going to lose the game regardless. That means Mahomes is on X Games mode and we're just screwed. So I think that won't happen too often. You have that maybe against San Francisco, but I don't think you have to cover Kittle the same way that you have to cover Travis Kelce. And so I think that some of that is just the risk you take. You can't cover everything, especially in the NFL. So I think that some of that long speed stuff gets a little remedied. But I think also Bayer's game kind of overshadowed one of my heroes of that game, and that was Reed Blankenship.
I wasn't playing in that game. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, but Reed Blankenship. Reed Blankenship came with the thunder, man. Like anytime he was around Pacheco, he was laying the boom. There's all this talk about how hard of a runner Pacheco is, how he's always putting his shoulder down. In the second half, he did not want to run the football. He did not want to bounce it outside. He did not want to get to that second level. You saw the oomph just out of his steps because he was getting hammered every single time he touched the ball by Blankenship. It didn't matter. Blankenship was finding, he was like a heat-seeking missile. He was finding him. He was laying him out. I never once saw Pacheco run into to Blankenship and win that battle. Blankenship won it every single time over and over and over again. And that's how you get inside of a running back's mind. You're like, all right, I can bounce this, but I'm going to get smoked or I got to make him miss. And that kind of stuff, like you saw the run game in the second half. I understand the defensive line stepped it up a little bit, but what you really had is you had a running back that was tired of getting smacked by white lightning back there who's running 100 miles an hour and hitting you in the fucking teeth. Like that's amazing. Like that
that's
kind of
awesome.
That kind of play, like it changes the tone, right? And we've talked about how many times in the past we talked about, oh, no one's afraid of the Eagles defense, right? People are afraid of Reed Blankenship. They don't want to get hit by him, right? And there's a couple of receivers too that are dropping passes over the middle, man. This defense is hitting people over the middle. You saw Zach Cunningham, smoke one of their tight ends. He dropped that ball, right? They're starting to think about it. And again, like there's a lot of ways you can win a game on defense before you even step on the field. And the Eagles are starting to get to that point. So that's awesome. And again, they dropped some passes, but a lot of that is they don't want to get hit. So Reed Blankenship, without a doubt, was one of my heroes of that game. And we're going to get the defensive line, but as a whole, the secondary, I worry a bit about the long speed, but I think schematically they might be able to overcome that.
Blankenship also is striking fear into the hearts of other defenses because he was the only player to play on both sides of the ball, has some snaps on both sides of the ball. Dual threat Blankenship
there we go,
was
baby.
was there in the victory formation, baby.
He deserved it, man. He deserved it 100%.
Two shades of Reed Blankenship. I feel like it's weird. Like it's a give and take with the Eagles when it comes to defense, right? It's either they heavily invest in the secondary for cornerbacks, right? Or this season they heavily invest in the safeties. And I feel like having Blankenship and Bayer back there to kind of schematically, possibly for teams like the Dolphins, right, where you want to avoid the long ball, you're going to have Bayer. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the defensive guy. I'm not really up there with that defense stuff. Schematically, you're going to want to have Bayer and Blankenship play a little bit more in the outfield against teams that are going to throw the long ball. But like you said, the Chiefs, they have wide receivers who lead the league in drops. They have a tight end who's on the back end of his career, which is sad to say because I love watching Travis Kelce play. Yeah. They also have a quarterback that's very whiny. I don't know. I love the safety tandem, and I hope it's here for at least the next 2 years. But my concern is right there with you with the cornerbacks, right? Darius Slay is not getting any younger, but he's doing his job, even though he did get shaken out of his cleats, which is sad to say. But hey, Bradbury showed up. He did his thing last night as well. Eli Ricks still seems to be going through a little bit of a rookie struggles. That was not a hold at all.
That's one of those where you come up on the sideline. He's probably looking at his coach, being like, "How do I do better?" And like as a coach, like he's probably
you can't teach that.
Know,
like
man. That looked okay to me.
He didn't really disrupt the routes either, so that's exactly
what happened. Was Mahomes was pointing at Eli Ricks like, "Hey, he's a rookie. Just calling him. He's a rookie. Like, just do it. Just call it." Like, and can I just say, like, that pisses me off about Mahomes so much because I feel like you're bringing in the LeBron James era of basketball, and if you guys know me, I'm not a LeBron fan at all. I don't like it. Like, football is meant to be gritty. Football is meant to be a man's sport where you're gonna get hit and you got to deal with the blows because you chose this profession in life. Mm-hmm. Deal with it. If you get hit, you get hit. Stop complaining about it.
Do you see what Tom Brady said on his?
He pretty much said that Pat Mahomes is mediocre. That's what he said. I'm saying it right now.
Well, you just like it's true, man. Like one of the deterrents.
I don't even know what to say about this.
one of the deterrents to this kind of like those kind of throws and those kind of passes over the middle is, unfortunately, you never want to get someone hurt, but it's a big.
You're gonna get hit. That's the point of the game. And come on, you're in the midair. Yes, it looked like Fletcher Cox pretty much power bombed him, but he didn't. He was in midair and Cox just threw him down. Dude, what else you want him to do? Like, just stand there, like, high five him, give him a hug, catch him on the way down,
nice pass,
like a fairy tale ending. Like, bro, like, what do you want him to do? Like, you can't call this just because this guy's going flaming his hands. I hate that style of play in any sport. I hate it. Don't call for things that are not called. Just leave it alone and play the sport. That's all it is. Sorry. That's my flop rant.
I mean, meanwhile, the Eagles are literally jumping 4 feet in the air to try to get the refs to notice a hold. So
Hassan Reddick.
I saw that. And that was the most athletic. I was like, dude, the vertical on that guy, if that defensive lineman wasn't holding him, would have been off the charts.
And that's the thing. Like the biggest thing for me, and I'm never one to like complain against or for refs and anything like that, but just the consistency. Like there's so many calls that were called that weren't called in other situations, and so many calls that were non-calls that were called in other situations. Like I just don't like. Again, we're just casual fans, right? But for a player, that must be exhausting. Like you do not know what you can get away with and what you can't. Because
exactly.
Some of the holding calls they called in the second half were like poor Josh Sweat, man, was literally getting held, manhandled, like hands are on his throat, face mask, all that stuff, the entire game. And then they throw a flag in the second quarter, and then we get a flag like late in the game. There's 2 flags. Like it could have been hold. If you're going to call holding there, you should have been calling it all game. That's a hold, right? And so either you call it or you don't. But just the consistent, like, okay, the Eagles got 1-2 on the touchdown. That was a hold on Zacchaeus, right? But like throughout the game, it's just like all over the place. It's really
was
tough.
That a hold on Zacchaeus though? Because Zacchaeus was he let go pretty quickly.
Right. If you're calling all the holds, that's a hold.
Okay.
If everyone's calling holds, that's a hold, right? If you're not calling any holds, you probably let that one go like they did, right? So it's I don't know. It's just the consistency for me.
Yeah,
I just feel like the rules are not the rules anymore, and it's starting to show that the rules apply to certain players, which I don't like because at the end of the day, like, again, the reason I stopped watching basketball was because the rules started applying to certain players. Like, it went a certain direction that I didn't like. It wasn't that Kobe-esque era where you see these guys battling it out with injuries and hitting each other and things are sliding. No, like football now, they're talking about possibly banning certain tackles. Like, the sport was born to be a gritty sport, like a gladiator sport. Like you're meant to be head-on collisions, all this extra stuff. I get to avoid concussions. I completely understand that. But injuries are part of the game. As a player, you got to learn to protect yourself, which I know is hard to do at times. But at the same time, it's like you chose this profession in life. Like this is what you chose to do. I hate the calling for plays. Like if we see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, it's going to drive me nuts. And I have a Super Bowl pick, and it's not the Chiefs. I think you guys will agree with who it is, but we'll say that for a later podcast. We got to talk Bills. We got to talk about Bills Mafia versus the Eagles. It's Kelly Green night, which I'm stoked about, and I'm sad that we didn't wear Kelly Green tonight because I think Morgan's the only one that got the memo. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. I feel like this is the first time these two have battled it out. But the Bills seem to be on a weird trend where they're trying to figure out where the hell they belong in the league, right? The Eagles seem to be on a trend where, hey, we're trying to figure. Duck really got me. We're trying to figure out what we do best, right? And what the Eagles do best is they win out no matter what it costs. And I think that's been the attitude, and it's great to see. But what are you looking to see? And we'll start with the offense. What are you looking to see offensively from the Eagles against this Bills defense on Sunday?
Less screens, but and if there is, you know what,
Less
here's the
left
thing.
and right, just straight
Yeah, well, I
ahead.
mean, less screens because honestly, I do want to see what work we can get with the tight ends, even if it's short passes upfield, not along obviously like a screen play would be line of scrimmage area. I want to see what we can get out of the tight ends. I know it's not going to be much because it's not going to be the focal point of the game. I do want to see how well this offensive line protects in the first half. I want, just the way that the Philadelphia Eagles start this game is going to be huge for how, the rest of it follows. And I think the Bills are especially dangerous right now because they do have a different offensive coordinator. It is not the same team. It's the same team personnel wise, but they're opening things up just a little bit differently as far as the his team has been running things throughout the rest of the season. So it's not necessarily take all the film you have and throw it out the window, but it's just you're learning sort of a new team on a short notice.
Yeah. First off, before we get in this, I want to shout out my other hero of the game, and that was Milton Williams playing out of his mind. That was
Right.
crazy. So
He
shout
was
Milton.
phenomenal.
We can get more to that when we talk about the defense, but wow, like that, if you're getting guys like that playing at the level that he did that game, like the sky's the limit for this front seven. But on offense, I think the key is, I mean, it sounded like a broken record, but run the football, right? Like this is a team that the Bills kind of struggle against the run. They got a good secondary that's well coached. You're just gonna have to run the football, and the offensive line, that might have been the worst first half I've seen in the Jeff Stetland era from the offensive line. Like I don't know what was going on. And the reason why I say the worst is because you have all your starters. Like there's been so many times where they've looked worse, right? But they're playing with backups, or this guy's out or this guy's injured, whatever. Like you finally got your starting offensive line again, and things just did not look good. Again, they looked a little better in the second half. They got things going, and credit to that Chiefs defensive line as well. That's a good defensive line, and Chris Jones is hard to deal with, and was hard to deal with again on Monday night. But they really need to figure it out, because if this offensive line isn't first or second or third or whatever you place them in the league, definitely top 5, probably top 1. If they're not that, this offense is completely different. It's a different, like, you just have to do things differently. I think that's why you see Brian Johnson kind of panicking, going on all these screens and stuff like that. Cause he's like, the one guarantee I have on this offense, and that's the offensive line being good, is not happening. So where do I go now? So I think you establish the run early. You get this offensive line back to who they are and who they know they are. I know for a fact that Jeff Sutton is ripping them a new one today at practice. Like he must, because that's just not up to the standard that he's coached for the last couple of years. So you're gonna get the run going, and then what I'd like to see is some ways to get AJ Brown open that aren't just AJ Brown being AJ Brown. Right? Like he's been open this year because he is probably the best receiver in the league right now. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, did just different kinds of receiver. But in what AJ Brown does, he is the best by far in the league. And that's just being open when he's covered. Right? And there hasn't been that much schematically to just get him open. And I'd like to see more of that. What you're seeing instead is, especially against the Chiefs, they're kind of using him as the scapegoat, and Devontae Smith is open. But at some point, it can't just be let's throw it up there and hope that AJ Brown comes down with it. There has to be something schematically to get him open. Obviously, he's getting a lot of coverage, I know, but this might be the game. I think like they're much better in the middle. That's a really good safety pairing, but I think you can expose these corners with AJ Brown.
And to that point, I mean, if you give AJ Brown a little bit of a rub across the middle, like he has so much size, have fun taking him down. because he's going to get
100%.
the yards, despite your efforts. And the Eagles, with his size to be able to do that, you have the perfect combination. Once that starts to work, to go back to Smith. He's a small, sure-handed receiver that's going to find his way into crevices. And it doesn't have to be deep downfield, though that will open itself up if run correctly, and also if you take advantage of that running game. But dude, like this has the makings because you can take advantage of the running game, because you could probably get Swift going very well. Hopefully we'll see something of Penny. I would like to see something of Penny in the next few weeks against, some of these tough teams. But yeah, I mean, like, it has to pretty much be on the other side of the ball as well on defense, the same exact sort of setup that you had against Miami, against Kansas City. You're going to have to do the same thing against Buffalo. We touched on that a little bit earlier, but I want to see Desai continue that pattern of just kind of strategically being able to corner the threats of great teams, and then that's going to be a big treat going into this postseason.
I want to and I feel like for offensively, right, against the Bills, and Doug kind of hit the nail on the head over here. If I could definitely find it, but he was saying that we need to see the slants. Like, I feel like that's something we did not see against the Chiefs. I felt like Steve Spagnuolo, and I hate saying things like this because I feel like I'm an idiot, but how many people in the world did not know that Steve Spagnuolo was going to call a wild blitz on third down every time the Eagles were on third down? Like, I feel like that was the most obvious call you can expect, right? So my thing with the Eagles is, like, enough of the deep passes. Like, we know it. Jalen could sling it, but at the same time, you got to keep Jalen healthy to make it to the playoffs, to make it to the Super Bowl, right? You got to get the offensive line rhythm. You got to get them in rhythm, right? Call these slants, call the short routes, call the underneath stuff. Like, make it happen. You have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, who are great with yards after the catch. And I feel like that's a missing wrinkle over the last several weeks with the Eagles. It's all about deep ball, explosive stuff, but you can't get to the deep ball without getting to the underneath stuff. Like, it's a game of chess, right? Like, you got to be smart. You got to outsmart your opponent. And right now, I feel like Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni, whoever's to blame for this basic play calling, they need to understand, like, it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being efficient. It's about just doing what you do best. What Jalen said on Sunday night, just do what you do best and trust in your craft. That's all you have to do. And I feel like you have Devontae Smith, you have Oz, you have Julio Jones, who's big as hell. Like, I never realized how big this guy is.
Yep. Large.
This guy's freaking huge. And you have AJ Brown, who's built like a linebacker but can run like a running back. Make do with what you have and just keep it simple. That's all you have to do. If you want to call a deep pass or play action, like, I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like we didn't see much play action in this game. Like, it was all about panicking and make sure that we had the short screens and then run the ball. Like, that's all it really was. It was either deep ball, run the ball, or short screen. There was no slants. There was no crosses. Like, it wasn't the mixed bag that it should be. And I feel like Brian Johnson, after watching the game, there's no way you watch that game and say, hey, I did a good job. No. You watch the game, you criticize yourself, you say, like, okay, I could have done this better. If you feel like you could have done this better, then implement it in the next game, right? If you feel like you could do something better from this game, implement it in the next game. Like, you should be building, and it shouldn't feel like you're still on the first floor. Like, dude, you guys own a whole luxurious building. Like, get to the freaking presidential suite already. Like, let's see what you got. Get the team into a rhythm and just make things happen. Like, you have the best tandem in the game at wide receiver. I feel like they're really second to nobody. I mean, what are going to, second to be CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks? Like,
Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill.
You're saying that, yeah. I agree, Morgan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
wait. You guys feel like they're second to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill?
No, but that's who else is in the conversation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. More so than Brandon Cooks.
I was trying to make a non-compliment feeling like a non-compliment.
Yeah. I just I think you're forgetting a key piece of the puzzle, and that's the QB draw on 3rd and 12.
I feel like every single time you're gonna call on me, you're gonna say something nice about me, but bro, you pull it away, like you just pull the rug from underneath me.
It's just like that. Yeah, I completely agree, man. Like, it just feels like he's a little tentative, like a little scared. Like he definitely has been spending the last year drawing up plays. Like I mean, he and Jalen Hurts have known each other for so long. But anyways,
and these damn QB draws, like you were saying.
I'm with you. Like it seems like the same offense as week 1, realistically, if not even toned back.
I don't disagree at all.
Yeah. Well, defense.
Defense? Yes, we need little ringtones or whatever to call it, little jingles for you and Eric for your parts of the show. Like when it's defense, it's the Morgan time, and then when it's prediction time, it's the Eric time. Like we just gotta implement that. But yeah, defensively.
To jump into this prediction time, or are we jumping into defensive time?
We're almost there. I know you're itching. I see. I see your little whiskers just itching, bro. I get it. It's okay. We're getting there.
I heard the word of the day, and I almost lost my mind.
All right, Morgan, bring us home with defense. What are you expecting to see out of the Eagles' defense against the Bills?
I mean, the biggest thing they need to do is just limit the big play, and I think it's more so that more than just taking it away. It's encouraging teams to go elsewhere. Like I just feel like every team in the league right now is looking at this defense going, we can take our deep shots and we'll live and die by one of those connecting. And you can't go into the playoffs with teams that think they can throw deep on you. Like it's just not a confident place to be. You can't, like, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like you just either they don't connect and you escape with a game like that and it's not really confidence building, or they connect on those and you lose the game, right? Like, so either way, it's not great. Like you have to figure out a way to solve this deep shot problem because every team seems to think they can get one on you, right? Like it happens every single week. There's at least a couple. And the Bills, man, like they are a desperate team right now. They are going to throw it deep. They are not afraid to throw it deep. They never have been. And especially now, the deep bombs are coming, right? And I think one of the keys is we've been kind of saying it for weeks, and definitely I've been hinting at it, is this defensive line needs to be better at getting to the quarterback. Now, there's a lot of holding, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of that, but they really didn't start doing that the way we thought until it really counted in late quarter. But you can't let teams hang around constantly. Like you just have to shut them down. We're so used to seeing an Eagles team that when the going gets tough, the quarterbacks are on the ground, and we need to get back to that. So one is you need to shore up the secondary, but two, if you just keep hitting the quarterback, then that'll solve your problems too. So they need to do one or the other, but they really need to discourage teams from throwing that deep ball because it's going to connect eventually, and that's how you lose games.
Live and die by that defensive line because it's going to be the same recipe that you beat Mahomes with that you probably beat Allen with.
Live and die by the side.
Okay, I like it.
There we go. Right. One little wrinkle I want to throw in there. Shaq Darius Leonard is off the coach. He was waived today. There's a likelihood he actually becomes a free agent because he does carry a $6 million cap hit for this season, and the next season it jumps to like 16 mil or 19 mil. Mm-hmm. So with the likelihood of becoming a free agent, do you see this being a fit for Philly and him going forward?
I feel like for this year, it really depends on how healthy you think Nakobe Dean is going to be for the playoffs. Mm. And not really that I'm looking at, Leonard coming in and playing right away, but you want to have that insurance. And I don't think Christian Ellis and Patrick Johnson are the answer. Because, kind of God forbid right now that either Zach Cunningham or Nicholas Morrow get hurt, because then you're in a really tough situation. So I could see them doing that and kind of just having that veteran insurance. But I mean, if it's any part of taking that cap hit next year, that Howie's not going to do it. Right. So,
well, if he becomes a free agent, clears waivers,
right.
I mean, it's whatever deal you agree to.
Exactly. But then I think some teams are just going to offer him more money. And so it depends what he wants. If he wants to go compete for a Super Bowl, welcome to the Eagles. But I think that it's kind of, again, that veteran presence as a backup. I don't think you bring him in this point in the season and go, hey, you're going to start for us next Sunday.
I mean, what's the possibility that he does join the Eagles for the rest of the season? And then,
I feel like
what's the interest on him that the teams next year are still interested on signing him? Because that's kind of where you're at, as far as what he'll probably command. I think that the great point was Nakobe Dean. He's already hit the IR twice this year. I think it's a no-brainer that you try to do what you can to bring him in, only if not for the rest of this year, as that insurance policy, probably as somebody who will see a decent amount of snaps on the field too. But is it a long-term thing? Absolutely not. So there's
No,
also
yeah.
that end of it too.
All right. You know what? You know what is a long term thing on this podcast, Eric? Do you want me to tell you what's a long term thing on this podcast?
I just
What
see like
what
Eric's
what
like eyes popping out of his head. Going like,
what
oh,
is the long-term thing about this
Predict.
podcast?
A long term thing about this podcast is every single Flippin' the Birds fan can look forward to prediction time, and they can look forward to Eric betting against their team during prediction time. So, I mean, do we even ask you what your predictions are at this point in life? Like, do we just assume like you're rooting for the opposing team, or like how do you want to approach this?
I mean, Duck really wants me to say something, so if you don't want to ask, you'd be pissing him off.
Say the damn thing, baby.
Say the thing. Say the
Say
thing.
the thing. If your team is the Buffalo Bills, then you, my friend, might be. Apparently, the psychology of this show might be happy with me. I don't know how it goes anymore. 4-point win for the Eagles over the Bills.
Damn it, we're gonna lose.
4-point win for the Eagles over the Bills. I'm actually going to copycat the score that just happened, 21-17.
Okay. You hit this
All
one.
right.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm thinking a similar score. I mean, you're going. I don't know. It's just a tough time of the year, weather-wise, right? Like, who knows what the weather's going to be like on Sunday? That's going to factor in. It's going to help the defense on both sides. So I see it being around 20 to the high teens. To me, this game has the making, and it's weird to call it a trap game, but it has the making of a trap game for me, because you do have a desperate Bills team that knows how to win games. They do know how to winning football, even though we haven't seen it consistently this season. And so for me, you have a team that's coming off a really emotional win. You have a short week now. You got to go play Buffalo. It's just a tough situation to be in, but it's hard to call it a trap game because I don't think the Bills are that bad. I don't like, this isn't like the Jets, right? Like, this isn't, you're playing the Panthers and wow, all of a sudden the Panthers come away with the win. This is a good team. But I do feel like there's that bit of a, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost this one. Going 16-1 is tough to do in the NFL. That being said, mama ain't raised no bitch. So it's going to be 24-17 Eagles. That's what I'm going with, because because go Birds. But I do kind of see that in the back of my head being like, okay, this might be that game where the Eagles kind of drop one. They're exhausted. They must have done a lot of planning for the Chiefs in the bye. So I wouldn't be surprised, but 24-17 Eagles.
All right, here's what I'm going with. Ridicule me if you must. The Eagles would drop one of two games. It's going to be between the Bills and the 49ers. I'm heavily convinced. I believe that they beat the Cowboys and they sweep them for the first time in a long time, right? There's something on the Bills that motivates Jalen Hurts more than there's something on the 49ers that motivates him. Jalen Hurts is still not getting the credit that he deserves weirdly enough. I mean, the Eagles have a 13-game winning streak over teams that are over 500. Let's clear that really quick. And Jalen Hurts has been at the forefront of that, right? But a lot of people still considered Allen to be a better quarterback than Jalen, right? I feel like if Jalen Hurts was petty enough to keep the background of the Super Bowl on his phone, I feel like he's keeping this on the back of his mind, like, hey, let's go on this little QB gauntlet and let's make it an onslaught, right? We took down Patty Mahomes. We took down Dak Prescott. We took down Tua. Like, everybody that you consider better than me. Josh Allen is next on my list. How do we beat them? I feel like the offense actually comes together and actually figures things out a little bit. Brian Johnson goes back to his Madden days and he figures out, hey, I could call slants. Why not, right? I could do that. Yeah, might as well. I could call running back screen. Who doesn't do that? A quick toss for the running back? Yes, absolutely.
That decision is yours.
The idea of an NFL OC turning on Madden and be like, wait, slants are allowed?
That's a thing, bro.
I thought they ended those in 1847.
What is a play action? Who does this? Like, I feel like Brian Johnson kind of comes to the sentence, like, ball man, we think alike. We're right here with each other. But I do think the Eagles do beat the Bills. I do think, spoiler alert, I do think they drop the next game to the 49ers, which is not a wild concern. But I think they beat the Bills, and I'm gonna go with 28-21. 28-21 Philly.
Oh, that's fair. Cool. It's fair. You always have the widest margin for Philadelphia now, though.
You always say that, but you haven't brought up the receipts.
Ever since I brought it up the first time, you stopped going from like 3 points to now. I gotta watch
the receipts.
Watch the video, watch the tape. Chris Infante used to say it. Watch the damn tape.
Well, watch the tape then. You're not watching it.
Hey, everybody in the chat, go back.
I'll watch
the
it.
Tape.
I'll watch it when I do my cuts.
Morgan, can you just do a clip of just his predictions throughout the season?
Yeah. I can
That'd
do
be
that.
perfect.
You want to do bloopers? Like we do bloopers at the end of the season.
I just have and look. I have one blooper. I just don't know what day it is ever.
Oh God. Well, we went over our hour mark, hour and 10. We want to shout out all you guys for sticking it with us, and shout out to Marc Farzetta for joining us today. Definitely tune into next week where we will be joined by Jason Aponte, who actually helped us preview Eagles and 49ers. The week after that, we'll be joined by two guests, Aiden Powers of Birds vs. Boys, who will help us recap the Eagles' last game, and then LP Cruz of Blogging the Boys to preview Eagles and versus Dallas. So we're trying to bring the energy back to all of you guys as a little bit of appreciation. Definitely stay tuned. And we appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you guys follow our TikTok. Morgan does an extremely great job of our clips. Follow our Instagram. And I think my dog just collapsed.
Oh well.
And yeah, life happens. But yeah, we appreciate you guys. Until next week, I'm Brian Cameron alongside this guy is loud as hell. Eric Reese and Morgan Marquette.
Before you say bye, I'm just going to say this real quick. One last little nugget about this game coming up. Brandon Graham, when he plays against the Buffalo Bills, he will take first place as the most games played by a Philadelphia Eagle. David Akers will move into second. So good on Brandon Graham for being the guy in Philadelphia.
It's also the Rasul Douglas revenge game. But
I mean, Jim Shorts is in Cleveland. It has nothing to do with us, bro.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Ryan, to close. Go ahead, brother.
We're flipping the birds.
Go Birds.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Go Birds.
Flipping the birds.